So to summarize, if we don't proceed in the manner that we have proposed, there's a very strong likelihood in print that we will be sued. And that we will be sued and that they will sue to make the results of any election held invalid.
Yes, they will sue based on what they've stated in the letter as a breach of contract in the memorandum of understanding, and also to invalidate the election because our only authority would be an unlawful invalid petition.
Thank you. Other, Mrs. Hiller?
As much as you could discuss it, one of the things too is that the very ordinance that's in question has some dates in it that have to be met for that whole process to go forward. If I'm not mistaken, the last date in line is the whole things, the process has to be completed by February 1st. So it does put us under the gun. Fortunately, we can get through court quickly and find out the answer there. But we would have to, if we're going to do anything differently, we'd have to do it quickly. Otherwise, this deal will fall apart and we will likely not have a racetrack and not have anything to vote on. Is that in simple terms correct?
The memorandum of understanding, I believe the date's February 1st. The deal has to be completed by then. That's the agreement of all the parties. If it's not completed by then it essentially falls apart. Court First has stated they'll foreclose. There's no expanded district, and the Heartland Park goes to a foreclosure sale.
Thank you.
Mr. Manspeaker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just as a point of clarity, the Lathrop and Gage document that's been presented is referred to as an opinion.
Yes.
And so basically what any lawyer tends to give is opinion. And the only way that it becomes fact is when it goes before a judge and the judge rules on it and says this is the fact. Am I correct?
Correct.
So I'm just throwing that out there so that everybody understands we are operating off of opinion. And I think that that's important to understand. Thank you.
Mrs. Hiller?
I'll give a wrap-up statement. If somebody else has a comment, that's fine. I really appreciate that all of us on the council and the staff having this conversation. I think it's been really important to get the word out. I am also quite sure that there are still a lot of questions in people's minds, and so I want to encourage, I believe there's another CJ Online chance for people to ask questions and get answers on Thursday. Is that correct?
Yes, Councilwoman, that's correct, and it's set for 2 hours this time instead of just 45 minutes.
2 hours, and what time should people look for?
I believe it's 11 to 1, but I would, yes.
11 to 1 on Thursday. And then all of us have fielded a lot of calls, and I'll speak for myself, but I think I can speak for the others. If people have questions that are unanswered, they get hold of their council people or get hold of the city manager's office. They can either get those answers directly or we'll get them for people the best that we can. It is complicated, and we covered a lot of ground tonight, but certainly not all the questions and answers that are out there.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Any other comments on this discussion item? Mr. Schmidt?
Just one quick, I guess, point of order comment. Since this was added to the agenda, do we have open public comment on this?
Yes.
Even
Yes.
though it's a
Yes, we
discussion
can.
item?
Yes, we can.
I think we should open the floor to that then.
All right. If we have someone in the audience, I know, actually, and Joanne, if you'd want to speak now, you're on for public comment that we're going to have later in the evening, but if you'd like to take this opportunity, if it's on this subject, to go ahead and address the council at this time.
Yes, you're right. I was on for public comments, but I can make those comments now.
Okay, thank you.
And I
That'd be
appreciate
fine.
the fact that you realize that anybody can make a public comment about this issue because it was only added tonight.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
So I have several comments, but the ones I had for there, I'm not going to have. I was one of those people that carried the petition. I carried the petition because I was in favor of the racetrack. I remember when Mayor Felker was taking people out there by the busload, city busload, dignitaries and entrepreneurs and race car drivers, and he was so excited about this, and his excitement was contagious. And I supported the racetrack then. I was sorry it fell into disrepair. But I did think it should be a democratic process rather than an administrative process. And that's why I carried the petition. I learned so much about how your constituents feel about you folks. It is amazing. And I'm not sorry I carried the petition, but I will tell you, their confidence in you is really low. The item that you were talking about, excuse me, the benefit district for the South Topeka, people are leaving that. We lost a pool hall just recently. We've got 2 other businesses that are going to be moving out. I don't know where this money is going to be coming from the sales tax revenue on that area. Why won't you let the citizens vote on it? You don't have any confidence in your constituents? You know, if you've got, 3 months and 10 days by February 1st to call an election, only 5% of the people, the registered voters, signed that petition. You don't have enough confidence to think the other 95% might want to have that racetrack and might want to have this benefit district? Why won't you let us vote on it? You've got plenty of time. It's, 60 days that you have to call it? It could be a mail-in ballot. And yes, it would probably cost $150,000. But if the judge votes in favor of the city, do you think these petitioners are going to quit? No. They're going to ask it to go to a higher court. And if you think that you have disrespect from your constituents, the disrespect that you have by the attorneys in this town is even lower. I think we can get an attorney pro bono. You'll have to hire an attorney, because from what I read about the emails, your current city attorney could not handle that issue. It doesn't make any sense. It's not economically feasible for you not to let the citizens vote. Thank you very much. I hope you'll understand what I'm saying.
Thank you for your comments.
I am so disappointed. I would just say shame on you. Shame on you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there other members of the audience who wish to speak on this issue? Yes, come forward.
Good evening. My name's Leo Hafner, and I live in Representative Schwartz's district at 6115 Southwest 38th Street. And I have a number of questions about this, which I don't want to raise them all tonight, but there are some comments that I think you all need to think about in terms of policy and going forward with this, because I think you're setting a horrible, horrible precedent by doing this. And what I mean by that is, why are we buying a private business? Government does not have any authority, in my mind, to be buying private businesses and getting into the realm of running them because they think they can run them better and make them more profitable. And the example that I used with Representative Schwartz is, suppose that Westridge Mall, which is every bit as much of an economic driver in the city of Topeka as Heartland Park is, loses a few more of its tenants, and they come to you and say, we're going to have to close up, we're going to leave town. Are you then going to issue bonds to buy Westridge Mall? So then where does it stop? You buy this one, you buy the next one. Where does it stop? It's not government's responsibility to create economic activity. It's to support economic activity. And you do that through providing infrastructure, providing aid to businesses, not blocking them from being able to do the things that they need to do, but you don't buy them. So I think you need to think about that, because you are setting a precedent as you do this. And then the other thing that I would just like to say is, I don't think you're getting the full side of the story on the risk involved in this, because you're being told, we've got these bonds out here, and the new sales tax district will pay off the bonds. And I don't think that there's too many people that are really arguing whether that will pay off the bonds. The issue is, there are other costs involved in terms of managing and running that racetrack. Should there not be a buyer, and we keep saying we're proceeding under the assumption there's going to be a buyer. Well, I can remember years ago, as somebody who's lived in this town for 60 plus years now, I remember when Joan Wagner when she was the mayor, she had a developer on the line who was going to develop Water Tower Place. Well, when certain things happened, the developer went away. And I think you ought to consider strongly the possibility here. You have all kinds of people who are interested in it until it comes down to the final thing, and then they disappear. That can happen again. So I just want to say that, because I think you all need to hear these things and think about them.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Are there others who wish to speak on this issue?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Chris Emming. I live at 5913 Southwest 10th Terrace here in Topeka, Kansas. I really hadn't come up to expected to say anything tonight. I just came to hear about the burning permit stuff. That's the only reason I was here. That's an issue I'm kind of familiar with too, and I think the fire department is doing a great job in that respect. My only purpose for coming up now is when you talk about the petition. I know the city has to do what they have to do. I understand that. And the sooner that process happens and gets resolved, then we all can move down the road. But when I hear people talk about this as Emming's petition, if this were Emming's petition, you wouldn't be here tonight, because I didn't gather enough signatures myself to make this work. And I told some of you that at the start. I know Chad heard this, and others heard this as well. This couldn't have been done by one person, and I'll take credit for my wife's signatures as well, and we still wouldn't be, to whatever number Chad understands, or I understand, or the county understands. It's only because people like Leo, who I'd never met before, Joanne, who I had heard of but never met before, came forward and went out and had petitions circulated and signed. And as it turns out, there were 68 other people besides Colleen and I doing this. Yeah, there were some family and friends, but they didn't, they weren't enough to get us over the top either. But in any case, when you say this is Emming's petition, I'll take responsibility for any of the shortcomings. I'll gladly do that. That doesn't scare me, and the thought of lawsuits doesn't scare me as much as it seems to scare some other people. But I think you have a responsibility to do the right thing, and I think that's what you're doing. But this is really a reflection, the petition is a reflection of the effort of not only those 68 people that circulated petitions, but the thousands of people that came out to sign the petition. If there's ever been a petition in the city that's garnered more signatures, I'd like to hear it. I know the Mayor Wagner was real successful with an effort, but so I was really surprised. When we started out and we needed 2132, and I think the city attorney knew the number as well as I did, in spite of any confusion someone may have had about numbers, but that was a real challenge. That number is not easy to do. And then to think that you might need 2,900, as was suggested halfway through the process, and it was like, wow, we'll just never get there. But we ended up getting there. The county has certified it. I know the city has done some kind of review as well. So I guess that's the only point I'd make. We started this wondering if this was just something that I had questions about. The state law, obviously, it provides for a petition. No one's disputing that. Whether the petition form worded it correctly or not, I don't know. the courts will settle that, I suppose. But we made a good faith effort, and anyone that thinks it wasn't made in good faith just isn't stating things accurately. So that's my only point here tonight. I don't feel like I could let Joanne get up here with her years of experience and not come up and congratulate her, the other people that carried the petitions, because if there's credit, it goes to them. If there's blame, I'll gladly accept it. That doesn't bother me at all. So with that, I think we can look forward to, maybe we'll find out something tomorrow, huh, on a court case. I heard from one of the council members tonight, so we'll see how that goes, and then people can move forward.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Madam Speaker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to commend all three of you for carrying the petition. I once worked for a politician who used to say that politics is a contact sport, and it really is. I mean, to circulate a petition, I don't know if people quite understand the gravity of it, because it's not just anybody that can sign the petition. It has to be a registered voter, and they have to be currently registered. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. Obviously, the wording is an issue. But to have sort of place all the blame on Mr. Emmig's shoulders, 68 circulators, 3,900 signatures. I mean, the reality is that somebody had an impetus to want to do something about it, and it wasn't just Mr. Emmig. It was lots and lots of other people. And I think that that's important, and I think that you all should be commended for engaging in democracy in such a way, because it's not easy, and it's not a task that should be taken lightly. But the reality is that everybody learns through the process. I've obviously learned. I think the folks that circulated the petition have learned. I'm certain city staff has learned. But there's been a lot of moving parts here. So I hope we can come out with the best possible outcome for everybody. That is honestly my intent, and I think that's the intention of the petition holders. But I honestly think that's the intent of city staff as well. I think everybody has the best interests of our community at heart, no matter what the public perception is of how things are proceeding. I think everybody is just trying to do the right thing. So I think that's important to keep in mind as we move forward. Thank you.
Are there other members in the audience who wish to speak on this subject? Mr. Schmidt?
I just wanted to address something that was said. I agree completely that I think the intentions of the people involved here are above board and good intentions, and I include this body and city staff in that as well. It was said in the public comments that this is about this council not letting the people vote. This has been repeated several times and across multiple media spectrums. That is not true. If we do not get a judicial ruling on this, whatever election happens and the $200,000 that we pay for it is subject to challenge. We can't go forward responsibly without a legal, we can't go forward with an election without a legal ruling. It's not an attack on the petitioners. It's not an attack on the people that sign the petitioners. It protects them. If they go and gather 3,500 signatures, we hold an election, anybody, not this body, not one of the people involved in the deal, not one of the 3,500 petitioners, but one person decides that they don't like the results of that election, everything that this body has done and that all of those petitioners have done can be invalidated with one court filing. That's what we protect against by seeking a court ruling. It's not to stop an election. If a judge comes back and says, hey, we can have an election, then let's have an election. But getting that ruling first protects everybody involved. It's not an attack on anybody. So I think when we're talking about the sentiment here of everybody and the motivations of everybody involved here, I think it's important to recognize that this is not the city attacking the petitioners. This is the city guaranteeing that anything that comes out of that petition is legitimate and legal. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Seeing none, I agree. This has been an excellent discussion, an educational process, I hope, for the public as the discussion among the council members. We'll proceed to item 7 of the agenda, which is the announcements. We do not have a council meeting for several weeks, so there is not a preliminary agenda for the clerk to read. So we'll proceed with announcements. Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, I have no comments.
And we'll proceed to Mrs. Ortiz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to announce that the score is 5-0 Giants.
Okay. All right, yes. Mrs. Everhart, Mr. Manspeaker, Mrs. Schwartz.
Just real quick, this past weekend, we went on a haunted tour. I know Halloween's coming up. I learned so much about Topeka that I didn't know, and it was a member of our historical society that did the tour. So it was just very refreshing. So I would encourage everyone to have a happy Halloween, to be safe, and it's on a weekend, so be careful. So, thanks.
Mr. Schmidt.
Despite what we learned in our planning study about us being less dense, I think I've said enough tonight, so.
Mr. Harmon, Mrs. Hiller, Mr. Brown.
I just wanted to mention really quickly that the North Topeka NIA has, for those people who live in the North Topeka West Neighborhood Improvement Association area, your president has mailed out a sort targeting priorities questionnaire, and I would encourage all of you to fill that out and get it mailed in by this Friday so they get as much feedback as possible as they go forward with their priorities. Thank you.
Mrs. Ortiz has one additional comment.
I do. This is a very important one. Miss Lundy is in the audience. I'd like for her to come up. You know I'm a big kid advocate, and I'm going to have her introduce her parents, but I want to talk a little bit about Miss Lundy. If you go to the Thanksgiving dinner, you will see Miss Lundy pushing a beverage tray with a little 7-year-old boy with gloves, and she instructs him on where to go and what to do. That's my grandson. But I did want to acknowledge her because no, right there at the podium, babe. Because she's a very smart girl, and she's there every year at the Thanksgiving dinner, and she will probably be our next coordinator in about another 7 years.
Couple years,
Miss
okay.
Lundy, what do you got to say?
I actually like doing it. So,
And who are your parents?
Myron Johnson is my dad, and Monique Lade is my mom.
And what school do you go to?
Jardine.
So if you come out and help at the Thanksgiving annual dinner, we will see Miss Lundy, I'm sure. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for coming up here. The other comment I was going to make is that encourage all of our registered voters to vote. We now have advanced voting is open, and encourage everyone to be sure to vote and vote early, because there will be lines certainly on the election day. We will now go to public comment. Benita Johnson. Is Benita Johnson? Okay. If you would come up to the podium, please.
Good evening,
Good evening, welcome.
Mayor, Council.
Could you move over to the mic just a little bit closer, if you would, please?
Okay. Mayor, Council,
Thank you.
and public. I'm here to raise something that took place on my on the property that I wasn't aware of. I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I really didn't know what took place until my brother Alonzo, which is in the audience, called and told me that we had a demolition on 830 Southeast Sherman, which was a family loan, the house been in our family for like 42 years until last year. And between the city or the council, someone had it tore down without our permission. We did not receive no notice. We did not see phone calls, nothing, letting us know that this property, this house was being torn down. Only way we even noticed that it was torn down is because one of my niece happened to go through the street one day and seen the city out there tearing the property down. The taxes is always kept up on it because I'm the one that comes every year to pay for the taxes. I was wondering, because of last year, why was I paying $10,000 all of a sudden when, before I came, they told me I was paying $2,600, and when I came, I had to write a $10,000 check out. And the reason why is because they charged me for demolition $6,170.52. Then they charged me $247.48 for cutting weeds, which my brother normally do that because he owns his own lawn service. And some kind of insurance, or I don't know what that is, whatever, but they charged me $731.51 for that. And I'm saying, well, why am I paying all of this when the house shouldn't have been tore down in the first place? Before I left addresses, phone numbers, any kind of contact number that they can do if they had any kind of problem to contact me or my brother, which stays in the state here of Kansas, or my sister. Neither one of us was contacted at all, period. They just took the home and tore it down. Now, they said that it was people going in it, but we had it boarded up. It's between code compliance and the city who did it. I don't know which one, they put it on one another, but for us, I see is code compliance is the one that's have most of their hand in it. And code compliance also said that my brother and my sister had went and spoke with someone up there, and that they was telling them that the property was going to be condemned. Well, the property shouldn't have been condemned because there wasn't nothing wrong with the property. My mother, before she passed in 2007, she had a brand new carport put on for $4,000 and some dollars. That was brand new. The home.
Okay, you're out of time. Now, do you want to just finish, or do you want some more time to talk
Yes,
some
more time, just a little more time.
All right, a
Okay.
couple minutes?
Yes.
Would that be all right?
The-
Mr. Harmon?
Motion to extend for 2 minutes.
Okay,
Okay,
Mr. Brown, seconds. Discussion, all those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no.
We have 8 yes.
8 yes, you
Okay.
have 2 more minutes.
Okay, the home, wasn't nothing wrong with the home, but the utilities was cut off. I had a brand new bathroom floor put in, and all the rooms was perfect. And that's the only thing that was wrong. So therefore, I don't know why the home was torn down without notifying someone. So I'm asking the council to make a decision on them giving my $6,000 back, the $6,000 and some dollars back for the demolition, and whatever the cost of the home would be itself for them tearing it down.
Okay. All right. Ms. Johnson, this will be looked into.
Yes.
We will look into this, and we will have someone get back in touch with you.
Okay, good, because I do have statements and stuff
All right.
too that is notarized and signed
Okay.
for what is going on with the home.
Have you given that to the city?
Yes, they do have copies of everything.
Okay, all right. Mr., you have the copies, or you will get those copies? I'll find out. Okay, very good, thank you. Do you have a comment, Ms. Ortiz?
Yes.
Okay.
City Manager, if you could follow through with that, this is in my district, and I also know that we have a file on everything that we demolish, and we should have a file on that property. If you would get with Ms. Johnson.
Yeah, we do.
And keep me in the loop.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that completes our public comment. No, she spoke earlier. We do have, I know they will be short executive sessions. So, Mr. City Attorney, could you state if I could interrupt you to state our parameters for our first executive session?
I would ask for a motion to go into executive session for 10 minutes to discuss potential litigation. I'd ask the governing body, Assistant City Attorney Seth Bowery, the city manager, and Mr. Gerber to be present for that.
And you said 10 minutes?
Yes.
Is there such a motion? Mr. Schmidt moves, Mrs. Everhart seconds. Mr. Schmidt moves, Ms. Everhart seconds for 10 minutes. All those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no. Yeah. 8, having voted yes, we will go into the executive session. We'll take about a 5-minute break before we begin.